the art of the follow-up is just the biggest thing that people can do to grow their video business, because it's sort of a relationship kind of business, and we're all sort of doing founder-led sales. It's on us building relationships. So just keep checking in with people and you'll just be blown away at how much revenue and work comes in from that simple little action.
Hi, and welcome to the Your Story Studios podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things content creation. And today on the show, I'm joined by Grant, and today we are going to be talking about your 5 biggest video production business mistakes. Grant, what's number 1?
So number 1 would definitely be not creating a consistent marketing plan and sticking to that. So I think a lot of videographers get stuck in creating marketing content for their customers, but then when it comes to themselves, they don't really do anything or they don't stick to it. And what ends up happening is they end up relying on word of mouth. Word of mouth is great. It's the strongest way to convert a new prospect, but it's unpredictable, right? Like you can't rely on word of mouth. And I see a lot of videographers kind of proud that they don't do any marketing, but I think that's a mistake. And I know it's one that I made as well. So the first mistake is not creating a consistent marketing plan. So how do we do that? What do we need to do? Well, the first step is really finding a target market that you want to talk to. So for us, it's transport and logistics. So I know after speaking with customers regularly, after filming their content, I know the pain points they're going through. I know what they're stuck with. I know that, for example, they're trying to find more truck drivers right now. So now my marketing content becomes tailored to the pain points they're experiencing, like how do we use video to find more truck drivers and that kind of thing, using case studies, sharing behind the scenes. And also, and this is for LinkedIn, I sort of share my journey, sort of like sharing the building of a video business, and people really resonate with that as well. At Lift Video, we have 4 pillars of marketing. I like to think of it like a Parthenon, right? And you've got pillars of your marketing, a marketing Parthenon. And if you've just got word of mouth, you've got one pillar trying to hold up a whole house. I don't know, I'm not an architect, I'm not great with that. But at the moment, I've developed other pillars. So we've got word of mouth is still one, and that's always going to be one. But are there ways that you can increase word of mouth? Can you ask your favorite customers and say, hey, we love working with you. Is there anyone else in your network that you think I should reach out to you? Or that you could introduce me to. So that's one. The second one is LinkedIn. So I post 3 times a week consistently for like 3 years. So it's a long game, LinkedIn, but you will definitely see results probably like 3 to 6 months after you start consistently posting content. On the back of that, I'm reaching out to 20 new connections a day. Just like connecting with someone through Sales Navigator, connecting with them, sending them a message, just saying, hey, it's great to connect. We work in the transport space. Is it cool if we connect and go from there? So that's LinkedIn. The third pillar is our newsletter. So we've got a monthly newsletter that I've got someone experienced in communications. She writes it for me, puts it together, and we send it out. And then the fourth pillar is paid ads, which is something we've only really recently been doing, but I've already started to see leads coming through that. And the reason all of this works is because we have a niche, we have a target market that we can talk to and find pain points and show how we, solve problems in the industry.
Yeah, great. You're talking about people that are doing these jobs. Are you reaching out or are you utilizing AI in any way?
I'm a big believer in who, not how. And by that, I mean not trying to do everything myself and finding the right people that can support you with your marketing functions. Because we're videographers, right? We're not necessarily marketing people. But the thing, and this is like a sub mistake, is that we try to do it all ourselves. We try to come up with a marketing strategy. We try to come up with ads, and it's not our purpose. It's not like us, really. So if you can find people, freelancers, whoever it is, to support you, and you can sort of budget for that, I know that's a big challenge, but it is an investment, then I think that's going to really pay off tenfold. In terms of AI, we do use a little bit of AI just to support ideas, flesh it out, proofread, that kind of thing. But I would really encourage anyone listening to avoid just copying and pasting an AI 5 tips for your next video, because no one cares. Everyone can tell it's AI, and it just contributes to this dead internet AI slop fest that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, I've started using AI to write the YouTube descriptions for this podcast, and I found it to be really helpful. But when I've done them for multiple episodes, I've started to notice the same key phrases being used. I'm like, ooh, that's going to be a little bit annoying or a bit of a deal breaker because the audience is going to read it, just like you just mentioned, and be like, oh, that's AI, and kind of be turned off. Do you think that AI will keep progressing and get better and better, or do you think it will end up being just in this vicious loop of recycling ideas?
I think the way to stand out amongst all the AI noise is to just write it yourself and put it in your own words, because no one can replace your weird little quirks that only you have.
Yeah, and then it feels more authentic as well.
100% it feels more authentic. And I think if you're posting from your personal account and you're trying to tell these like maybe founder stories, or you're trying to write a thought leadership piece, and then it starts with in today's digital ever changing landscape and it's like immediately AI flags, then I think it's a bit disingenuous. But saying that, if you are using AI to enhance your writing, or maybe to like, you just need some ideas to get the ball rolling. So you ask, hey, how could I finish this post? It gives you a couple of ideas. That's totally fine. I do that all the time. But I think there's probably a line, and you need to make sure you're leaving room for some humanness, some human creativity, authenticity in there as well.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Moving on to mistake number 2.
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite. I guess favorite mistake. I don't know if I can have a favorite mistake, but this is my biggest learning experience. How's that? So when I started my business, I wasn't tracking anything. I had no idea what how much I was going to owe for tax, and like how many sales I had and how many quotes I'd sent out. None of that. So a really important thing that anyone trying to grow their video business needs to do is build a business dashboard. And this doesn't have to be complicated. Don't get overwhelmed with the idea of that. All it is, I've kept it simple. I've got a simple spreadsheet where we track every week at the end, Friday, 4 p.m., I'll write in these numbers. I'll track sales calls. I'll track quotes sent, quotes approved, how many LinkedIn outreaches do we do, how many followers do we have, and a couple of others that I can't remember quite off the top of my head. And the reason for doing this is because what starts to happen is you kind of can track each week. You can look at the data and go, right, we haven't sent any quotes out for 2 weeks. That means that in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to have no work on. I need to get on the phone and start calling customers and seeing what's going on out there. It just allows you to react in real time to what's happening in your business. And then the other part of that is also tracking your cash, like your tax liabilities, expenses, and that kind of thing, just so you can stay atop and you don't get hit with a huge tax bill. I got hit with a $22,000 tax bill my first year in business because I hadn't paid GST or whatever. So that was a pretty big mistake on my part.
Yeah. Do you have an accountant that takes care of that?
Yeah, now I do. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have any employees, but I do have, because I'm a sole trader, I do have an accountant, and he just takes care of all that. He does the quarterly BAS and all that, which we have in Australia. And yeah, it's just one thing, just take off the load, and then I can focus more on other things that I'm more passionate about. I heard recently that if you don't know the numbers, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with that. And I would just add, so it's great to use an accountant, but you still need to be looking at your profit and loss, like if not every day, every week, because an accountant might send you a monthly report and then you might go, oh my gosh, we're running at a loss. But it's like a month behind, right? And so suddenly you're like 4 or 5 weeks past where the problems sort of started.
Now you're in panic mode.
So that's why I track weekly, so I can foresee any issues, problems coming up. Even like, oh, wow, we've actually won a lot of jobs. Oh, what's our capacity like over the next 2 weeks? I need freelancers. Let's get everyone in. The biggest thing that someone can do to build a business, I think, is just start with a business dashboard.
Great. And would you say that you like looking at numbers?
I do now. I didn't when I started. I was like, oh,
walk me through that.
Who cares, right? But now I get a lot of satisfaction out of building out these like databases, and you can look at your stats. It's essentially like a competition with yourself each week. You're like, oh, how much did I sell this week compared to last week? Oh, okay, how much this month compared to last month? So it sort of creates a competition within yourself, because I'm not really big on like competing with other video production companies. I'm not a big believer in that, but I am a big believer in like being the best version of myself, pushing myself as hard as I can, and just trying to be better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah, that's great. I like that philosophy as well, because I believe in this modern landscape, there is plenty of work out there. The economy, and we might end up talking a little bit about that, but yeah, it can be a little bit harder, but there is plenty of opportunities for video production companies to develop and then thrive, I think. Moving on to mistake number 3.
Yeah, I mean, this one's fairly short, but it still hurts. Essentially, I lost a $200,000 job because we didn't have the correct systems and processes in place from the start. So essentially what happened, we won this huge job verbally over the phone. And I was like, sweet, we're set, this is it. And then, I didn't hear back for a little while, like maybe a week or so. And it turns out that the guy who'd approved it left. The new people coming in didn't want a bar of it. And I had no written contract to fall back on. Like there was nothing. So that was a pretty big mistake. So I think that comes down to a real fundamental flaw in our processes and our sales processes. And now, as a result of that, every time we get a job, I've got that signature, or at least, because some corporates don't like to sign things, I respect that, they email like a written confirmation that we're going ahead.
Yeah, well, that was my next question, because I've heard a lot that you need to have contracts and all that kind of stuff. And to me, that sounds really daunting, even as a business owner. Like I should be responsible and be sending out contracts and all that kind of stuff. But then I try to put myself in the shoes of the client, and they might be a little bit, I don't know, intimidated by the contract, which I understand. But then the contract is there to protect them as well. What would you say to video production people that are wanting to land these bigger jobs and not have what happened to you happen to them?
I think just a written approval is enough to like go back to.
And that's as simple as an email saying, yep, looking forward to working with you, just so there's some sort of digital trail.
Yeah, I think so. And look, maybe legally, I don't know if that holds, but it's worked for me since. So that's kind of what I do. I'd be interested to see if anyone has anything to say about that, because I've just kind of gone with that and run with it, but I don't know how much that has to stand on,
Yeah, let us know in the comments if this is wrong.
I'm sure you will.
And moving on to mistake number 4.
Mistake number 4 is not embracing a sales mindset. I think I had a real ick to sales when I started my business, and I had that image of like, a car salesman. Sorry to all the car salesmen listening, but there is a stereotype of like that really pressure, salesy kind of vibe. And that really it took me a while to overcome that. So I think I just sort of shifted my approach to like, it's not a sleazy sales thing. It's actually a conversation with a customer. They're having a problem. We're really good at what we do. We can help solve their problem. Here's what that looks like. Here's how much it costs to solve your problem. And that sort of transformed in my mind to like more of a helper, more of a giver than like a sleazy salesman kind of person.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that as well. Like when you get into video production, you just want to do the creative side of things, and you're not really thinking about the salesy side of things. What did you actually do to change that mindset?
Honestly, it just kind of happened because I was like struggling. I was like, and then I think I must have read a book. I read a ton of business books, and I reckon something in there was just like, you're actually just helping someone at the end of the day. And there's a transactional value to that. Like you can't run a business on nothing and just goodwill. You need money to survive. You need cash for oxygen for your business. So I think it just took me a little while to get comfortable, with money and the idea of like charging people money for something of value that helps solve their problems. And a big question I like to ask customers is like, what's the cost of not doing something of like this? And often the cost of the problem far outweighs your cost anyway.
Talking about pricing, how did you know what to price?
Honestly, I still struggle a little bit with that sometimes. It can still be really tricky. And I have noticed a lot of pushback in the last few months, particularly. For me, it's sort of identifying those outcomes that they're looking for, the business results that they want, and then tailoring how much time we're going to spend on this, how much tools, equipment we're going to bring to this to help deliver on that result. And that's sort of how I get to a final figure.
Very helpful. Now let's move on to your final and fifth business mistake.
Great segue.
Thank you.
I think the biggest mistake, the fifth biggest mistake, I've had many, is not following up enough. And there's probably two different contexts for this. So you send out a proposal and then they don't get back to you. What do? Do you follow up, or do you just kind of go, they're probably not interested? What you really need to be doing is just following up consistently until you get it out of the gray. You want a yes or a no. So for me, I might follow up on a proposal 9, 10 times over the course of 3-4 months until I get a yes or a no. So I think a big one is just keep following up with someone, not every day, not harassing them, but just from
that's overbearing. We don't want to do that.
We don't want to be overbearing, but it's just getting to an answer is what we want. And it might be you just follow up after 3 days and you don't hear back, and then you follow up after another week and maybe another 2 weeks, whatever it is. Maybe you then send them a message on LinkedIn instead of an email and just go, hey, are we still doing this or no longer interested? Just something really simple. And then the other part of following up is, have you got customers that you worked with that you haven't spoken to in a few months? Because I think everyone will have a list of customers that they've worked with over a few years that maybe they've just fallen out of touch with or they haven't spoken to in a while. So I would suggest building a list, just a spreadsheet of all the customers and when you last spoke with them, and then reach out to the ones you haven't spoken to in 2 months or more. Give them a call. How you going? We haven't heard from you from a while. Or send them an email if you don't feel like it's that sort of relationship where you can give them a call. And I think you'll be really surprised at the amount of money and work that you already have in your list. And it was sort of a case of you prompting them made them go, oh my gosh, yes, we actually do need to do this.
Yep.
Or it might be oh, you know what, we're thinking about doing something in a few months. Can you remember to message me in July?
Yeah. So just send that email.
Just send that email, put a note in your calendar to follow up with them in another few weeks, whatever it is. Just the art of the follow-up is just the biggest thing that people can do to grow their video business, because it's sort of a relationship kind of business, and we're all sort of doing founder-led sales. It's on us building relationships. So just keep checking in with people, not harassing them, but just touching base. How you been? Haven't heard from you in a while. How's the kids? You mentioned last time that you were going to Thailand. How's that? That kind of thing. Just keep reaching out, build that list, and just keep following up. And you'll just be blown away at how much revenue and work comes in from that simple little action.
Excellent. Well, that was great advice, Grant. Thank you very much for coming on the Your Story Studios podcast and telling us all about the 5 biggest business mistakes you've made in video production and how you kind of saved the day with it.
Thanks, Nathan. Good to be here.